morning, Richard called a meeting in the grand dining hall. Every servant, every staff member, even his closest business associates were summoned. Daniel, still embarrassed from the night before, stood quietly at the back, unsure of why his father had called such an audience. Richard entered the room in his usual commanding presence, but his eyes carried a storm. He looked at Daniel, then at the staff, and finally spoke in a voice that shook the hall. "Last night, I saw something that shattered me as a father. My son, was treated like a servant in his own home. And the most tragic part is that I, Richard de Vierox, am to blame." Gasps rippled through the room. The butler who had shoved Daniel turned pale. Richard continued, his voice firm yet raw with emotion. "What use is my empire if my own blood feels unwanted? What use is wealth if it builds walls instead of bonds? From this day forward, everything changes. This mansion, this staff, even this business. None of it matters unless my son stands at the heart of it." Then came the shocking twist. Richard did what no one expected. He stripped away the layers of his wealth for Daniel's sake. Within a week, he sent half the household staff away. Not out of cruelty, but because he wanted Daniel to learn what it meant to build a life with his father, not just live inside cold luxury. He canceled trips, turned down board meetings, and started driving Daniel to school himself. At first, Daniel resisted, confused by the sudden shift. He had grown used to being invisible, and trust did not come easily. But slowly, father and son began to rebuild what had been lost. Richard cooked breakfast for Daniel, burning the eggs the first few times to Daniel's laughter. They took long walks in the city at night. No bodyguards, no limousines. Just a father and son discovering each other. The butler who had humiliated Daniel was dismissed, but not without a lesson. Richard gave him a severance package, saying, "No wealth justifies cruelty. Remember this, wherever you go." Months passed, and the mansion no longer felt cold. For the first time, laughter echoed in its halls, not from grand parties, but from the quiet joy of a father and son sharing moments that no money could buy. And then, in a symbolic act, Richard shocked the entire city. At a press conference, he announced he was donating a massive portion of his fortune to build schools for children of servants and workers. The very people who had once been invisible to him. When reporters asked why, he simply said, "Because last winter, I almost lost my son, and in that moment, I realized love is the only wealth that matters."